Hi everyone, welcome to Tony Fox Tarot. Thanks for joining me today and great to have you with me. Before we get started on today's reading, if you're interested in becoming a Patreon subscriber, you can go down below into the description box. There's plenty of information on how to go about doing that. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to this video. Before you on the screen, we have the different symbols to choose from. And once you've made the choice of your symbol, that will be your reading. It's perfectly fine to choose more than one symbol that comes through for you strongly today. And remember, this is a general reading, so take what resonates and leave behind anything that doesn't. I'll leave you to make the choice of your symbol. And once you've done that, down below are the timestamps to navigate to your reading. And I will see you in a moment. Hi everyone, welcome to card number 1. This is your reading and we're looking at your health today. Let's jump in and have a look and see what's going on. I'm going to start up here with the Devil and the Knight of Pentacles. I feel it's a good place to start with what's been going on here in the past. I feel that you've been dragging yourself from one moment to the next and that everything feels very slow, very heavy, very burdened. I don't feel like I have a lot of energy here with these two cards in a way that gives me any dynamic lift. I feel everything is very limited in terms of what I can do, where I can go, what I can engage with. I feel like you're maintaining a routine with these cards, but it's like you're just hanging on. I don't feel like you're able to do more than what is required just to kind of keep things going. I feel like your motivation is very weak, and that keeping up any kind of framework to your world and to your health is very limited in terms of its experience. I certainly don't feel like you're having any enjoyment in your life. I feel like everything is compromised. Everything is feeling like it is in a limited capacity. There's a desire here with these two cards to withdraw, maybe to self-isolate or self-protect in a way where you don't have too much to do with anything beyond the basics. I feel like your world has shrunk down in a way where, you know, this is kind of raw bones. This is down to the basics, and I certainly don't feel like I've got any energy here. I feel like there's no capacity, there's no energy, there's no desire to have more than this very limited experience. I also felt here that there is a dependency on routine, a dependency on things being done in terms of just sustaining like a very basic world. And maybe for some of you, you're dependent on other people to help you to maintain that. To do the extra bits and pieces that need to be done in order to keep things going. I feel there's a practical element to this. You know, maybe there's a kind of a life-limiting experience for some of you here in a way that means that you are dependent on other people, where things need to be done for you. I feel, yeah, there's a very practical sort of element to what's going on here in a way that says to me that you're just barely keeping on top of things. I don't feel here with the Devil that a lot of people understand what you're going through. I feel like when they're looking at your experience, they just see that you are existing in a way that perhaps they don't understand. I don't feel like they understand why things are so limited for you. If I come down here to the Hierophant and the Ten of Swords, I feel, again, in the past, there's been some really difficult, maybe even terrible experiences around a conventional medicine approach for you. Whether that's consultations or treatment here with the Hierophant, I just feel it's left you feeling very disappointed, let down. The system has failed you, yeah. I feel that you kind of reach the end of the road in terms of going down this particular pathway and on these approaches. I feel like you've given up on what they've got to say or what is it they actually have to do for you. I don't feel like this system that these people, whether that's a doctor, whether that's a medical facility or just the establishment at large, I don't feel that they give you any convincing argument that they see you, that they really understand what you're going through, or that what they've actually done has actually made any difference to you. And I feel like accumulatively this has really left a mark on you in a way that has said that you've lost complete confidence in engaging with this any further. I think here I feel like you've given up on this approach. I feel like you've basically reached the end of the road in a way where you don't feel that you're actually being treated maybe like a person, or that things are being individualized or understood in a way where this is getting you. There's no true understanding of who you are, what you're going through, or of your case. And I feel like despite your commitment, I kind of feel like you've reached the end of the road. I think you've done everything that you were supposed to do. You've kind of ticked all the boxes, and despite that commitment on your part, I just don't feel like there's been any change that has been noticeable for you in a way that says that you have improved in terms of your health. And if anything, maybe I would actually say for many of you that maybe things feel like they've actually gotten worse. I feel like the diagnosis is also very limited in terms of what they are telling you and what they think is possible. I think that they're conditioning you down to expect a minimal amount of improvement. Just generally speaking, I feel like this has actually been a really bad experience. This has left you feeling that there is nothing left here for you to explore. Now, if I come up here to the Sun and the Three of Swords, I feel this brings you more into the here and now. I feel like there's been, this lack of progress really overshadows your ability to feel happy about anything. There's a very heavy heart here in a way where I feel that it looms over everything that you do. But at the same time, I kind of feel like it's actually made you think about things too in a way where you're recognizing how all-consuming this experience has been. That you need to save yourself, that you need to find some hope here with the Sun. I feel like you need to find the light, that this has been so heavy and all-consuming in a way where there's this need to save yourself by focusing on some kind of positivity, finding some glimmer of hope, that you can't keep on going the way that you have been going. This is too crushing. These have been very negative, life-limiting experiences that have left you feeling that you have no power to be able to facilitate change, that nobody is truly there for you in a way that actually helps you to move forward, that you are burdened with this very limited existence, maybe on people in a way that you don't feel comfortable to be, and that you recognize change is needed in some way that you haven't been experiencing. I feel like I don't feel like you're looking for a lot here either. I feel in some ways that you're just looking for some small thing that gives you a sense that things are moving forward. You're just looking for some change, like a glimmer of something, that gives you a sense of progress. I feel like you're seeing that your mental health has been really damaged here, and that it needs to be uplifted in a way that gives you a sense of positive existence, really. And I have to be honest with you here. I do feel that the clouds are parting and that the Sun is actually streaming in here with these two cards. I think that things have actually been incredibly negative. But at the same time, hope is actually starting to make its way into your life, whether you know it or not. And I do feel that the light is beginning to trickle through in some way. And I feel that first step is that you're actually open to the existence of actually being happy. It's the recognition that you aren't happy and that you need to be. And if I come down here to the Fool and the King of Cups, I feel like these two cards are really powerful in terms of the basis of how they support you through this process. I feel like you've come to a place here where you've actually begun to find yourself, and that you're taking back your power without any compromise. I think you reached the end of the road here in the past, and you recognize here with the Sun and the Three of Swords that things have to change. But down here with the Fool, and the King of Cups, there is inspiration here in these two cards in a way where I feel that you have decided that you need to take a new path in terms of managing your health. That your feelings are in touch with your instincts in a way where you're open to whatever it is that you need to do next. I feel like you're trusting yourself. I feel like you've put all of your trust here in the past in other people, in the system, in the establishment in a way where it's failed you, and that in many ways you've been left no other option but to trust yourself about what you do next. Or that you've got nothing to lose to try something new, to try something different. Here with the Fool, it's definitely about a new beginning in a very inspirational way that says that it doesn't need to be conventional anymore. And I feel here with the King of Cups that you've really come back to yourself in a way where it's like, actually, I have to remember who it is that I am here. I have to honor myself in a way where I listen to who it is that I am and what it is that I'm experiencing. And I feel like this has opened up a very new possibility, a new perspective for you, and that you're letting go of everything that's previously held you back. I feel that if you haven't found somebody, that you are about to find somebody who is going to give you healing, to give you support, to recognize who it is that you are in terms of your health totality. That is not about a diagnosis of a single symptom. It's about how you and your physical health relates. It's about looking at you as a person and understanding you at a much more spiritual perspective. I feel that this could be, for many of you, an alternative practitioner or somebody, maybe even somebody who is looking at your case and who it is that you are from a more psychological, spiritual perspective. So it could be about seeing a psychotherapist or a counselor. I just kind of feel that somebody is witnessing you here in a way that gets you at a very different level, that's not so cellular. It feels much more spiritual, but it also takes into consideration all the pieces of the pie. And I do feel here that this is a new beginning where a new self is beginning to emerge, and that you're giving yourself permission to be unwell, but also to heal. I'm going to come up here to the Hermit and the Eight of Pentacles. I feel like there's a complete rebuild here in the future. I feel like moving into this next year, this is a really important period of time where you're rebuilding from the ground up in a way that totally rewires how you think and feel and see what is going on in relation to your health. I feel like a lot of self-work has been done over this period of time, where there's a very important journey within yourself that identifies a lot of the health triggers historically, how they've manifested, how they relate to you as a person in terms of your psychological background, in terms of your experiences of the things that need to be healed at a much deeper level for you. I feel like you're seeing foundational patterns here that anchor bad health in a way that gives you enormous insight. I really feel like you're going deep here in a way that really plunders what your health means. And you're finding yourself through this process. The Hermit, once again, I feel like it's an extension here with the King of Cups and the Fool. It feels to me there is something guiding you on here. It could be another person in terms of a healer, a psychotherapist, a guru, a guide. It could even be your inner voice. I feel like there is somebody who is actually guiding you here in a way that helps you to rebuild a stronger health foundation. I feel this is also an enormous period of learning and applying that knowledge to your understanding of yourself in a way that actually uplifts your health. So this is a massive leap forward in terms of your timeline of rebuilding yourself, of progressing forward in a very foundational way. I feel that you are learning about yourself, you're learning about your own healing, and that this is done through guidance with somebody else or within yourself in a way that anchors you to a very new and trusted existence. I feel like this is deep work. I feel like this is foundational work. I feel like this is expansive in terms of what it gives you. And if you come down here to the Empress and the Nine of Pentacles, I feel like there is an outcome here that gives you massive growth and recovery in terms of a full health restoration. I feel like this is a 3 to 5 year period that reaps the rewards on every single level of your existence in a way where your health, your self-worth, your inner and professional development, your material world. I feel like there is enormous growth here at almost like it's a very industrious level that helps you to kind of reap rewards. I feel like here there's no longer this idea of feeling like you're a victim of your health or your circumstances when you go back here to the past. This is very anchored in a dependency period of leaning on other people and being dependent on assistance to get better in a way where everything and everybody is letting you down, and moving yourself into this period of self-recognition and understanding that you have to take this into a much more holistic approach, that you need to put your hand up for healing, or finding somebody or something within yourself that actually guides you through this process. And I feel like that the rewards here are that you've kind of moved through a very important period of time that has taught you so much about who it is that you are through this very confronting experience of bad health, and that this healing takes place primarily through yourself and your ability to change your circumstances. And I feel like that has been invented in terms of your environment, your circumstances, and the outcomes that reward you in a way that give you an enormous amount of control for the next phase of your life. I feel like the next 3 to 5 years here show a period of enormous patience, a transformative period that affects your existence both internally and externally. So, despite the fact that you've been going through a really difficult time, I do feel that you are on the turn here in this current position, and that things are moving forwards in a way where there are rewards through this experience, and that it's not all negative. Anyway, for my Patreon followers, if you'd like to hold for a moment, I will be with you in a second. For everybody else, if you want to go down below and hit subscribe, tap on the bell icon, that'll give you notifications for any future readings that I post. Please like and share this video where you can. And if you're interested in the services that I offer as a psychic tarot reader, you can go to www.tonyfoxtarot.com. There's plenty of information about who it is that I am, what it is that I do, and how it is you can access my service as a psychic tarot reader. Thanks very much and take care. Hi everyone, welcome to card number 2. This is your reading. We're looking at what's going on for you in terms of your health situation. I'm going to jump in here with the Wheel of Fortune and the Ace of Swords, looking into the past. And I feel this is a situation that has arisen very quickly and very impactfully. I feel like everything is fine one moment and the next minute everything is spinning on a dime. I feel as though your health situation has confronted you with a scenario that needs some kind of immediate treatment. It feels out of the blue. It feels very sharp, short, quick, in a way that gets straight to the heart of matters. I feel that this is a very threatening situation. I feel very out of control here with the Wheel of Fortune in a way where I don't know where things are going to land. And the Ace of Swords, to me, just there is an immediacy to this situation that feels high-pressured, high stakes, and very high risk. Yeah, I just feel that this could be possibly like a surgical situation for some people, and if it's not that, I do feel that it's definitely a high-pressured health situation that requires some kind of immediate attention. I don't feel like you have any time to think here. I feel like this has kind of landed on you in a way that has forced you to get on board with what's going on in a way that acts very quickly. So there's no time to think. And I feel that it's very difficult to get your head around this in this experience while it's actually happening. It just feels like things are moving very quickly. They're very high-paced, very immediate. And I get a sense here that you weren't expecting this, like you didn't see this coming. This is very random. I feel it's hard, and it's hard hitting. I don't feel that I'm fully integrated into this experience in a way where I'm seeing every aspect or feeling every aspect of what's going on. I'm going through the motions. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do to address the situation because it's landed very directly on me in a way where I can't avoid it. I'm being forced to address it. But there's a shock value to this that numbs the pain or kind of softens or detaches down the feeling in a way where I'm just getting on with it. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, but I'm on autopilot. I feel detached from this situation, detached from the threat. I feel pain here though, I feel the Ace of Swords here is really piercing into this experience in a way where there's some kind of very sharp, intense experience that feels that feels like I need to do something about this really quickly. I can't live with this. I can't stay with this. I need to go and get this sorted. I feel very isolated in this situation. I'm there's no comfort. There's certainly no comfort when it relates to the pain. I feel very isolated in the threat of this situation. I feel very isolated in the experience of this situation because nobody can relate to me and how it is that I feel. This is almost like a one-off. It's not something you want to repeat. I don't feel any comfort. I don't feel like anybody can say anything to make me feel better. I don't feel like anybody's doing anything to make me feel better. It's hard-hitting. Like, this is a very hard-hitting experience that feels perpetual when it's happening. It's like there's no let-up. So in terms of the physical experience, I feel that's very high energy, very intense, very painful, and it needs to be addressed very quickly. There's no question here. You just have to kind of make something happen in terms of addressing what's going on. Over here to the Moon and the Four of Pentacles, more in the here and now with where things have landed, I do feel that you're back on your feet. But I feel like a lot of uncertainty within yourself in terms of how you feel about what it is that's happened, about how you feel about where you're at right now, but also about your feelings for the future. There's a lot of uncertainty here with the Moon in a way that makes me feel very unsettled. I don't really feel like I've landed in an integrated way in terms of coming out of this experience. I don't feel like I can track the progression of my health confidently. My health feels, in one way, it feels intact. Here with the Four of Pentacles, in some ways I feel like I'm recovered. I feel like everything is back where it needs to be. I feel like I'm back on my feet quite literally. I feel like I've got a grip with things to a large degree. I do feel like my health and my energy is giving me the ability to, I guess, reclaim my position more confidently in terms of re-establishing my day-to-day world. But at the same time, there's this really deep uncertainty within myself here with the Moon that just, it feels like I've been completely shaken by this experience in a way where I just haven't gotten over it. I feel like I'm gripping to life. I'm gripping to my day-to-day experience in a way where, although I feel much better physically, I just don't know where I stand with everything that's happened. There's a definite sense here that whatever it was that you experienced, it's confronted you so sharply. I think it's shocked you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, but also physically. Like there is a residue or a resonance of that experience that just has not been shaken off. And I feel as a consequence of that, you're very easily triggered to feel uncertain about what's going on within yourself in terms of how you feel about your health, about your position in life. I feel like you've had to face an experience here in the past that has maybe confronted your mortality. There is a strong sense of feeling fragile, of feeling vulnerable here. I get a lot of worry coming up that maybe this could happen again. I feel like there is this underlying uncertainty or a sense that maybe I'm not fully over this or that this could happen again. I feel worried about my health I feel worried about where I'm at in terms of my mortality, my position in life, my ability to be able to get back on my feet and just take life for granted. I really feel like this has been a very difficult experience for you, and I feel like in some ways maybe you're overcompensating as a consequence to that. Maybe you're being really fit and healthy, trying to get back on top of things in a way where you're maybe going to the gym or running or walking or riding a bike or just watching what it is that you eat and staying away from vices. I feel like you're really concentrated on trying to bolster your health in a way that gives you certainty, that gives you security. But the really difficult thing about these two cards is that there's just this feeling underneath that you can't really put your finger on. It's like, I feel like something's not right, or that something could happen, and maybe I don't really know 100% what that means, but it's just, I can't make sense of it, and that makes me feel really anxious and worried, and physiologically, yeah, maybe I'm supposed to be technically back where I'm supposed to be, but it feels like at the same time I'm not fully where I'm supposed to be, if that makes sense. Come down here to the Hierophant and the Queen of Wands. I feel like in terms of healthcare and the support that relates to this, that the system has moved on. Here with the Hierophant, it's definitely a card of institutions, the system in terms of, your health. And maybe in terms of the Queen of Wands here, there's a health professional, or maybe this is symbolic of the department or the aspect of the institution that's been looking after you. I kind of feel like there is still support there, but they're not seeing any problems, So if you're bringing uncertainty, if you're bringing concerns, anxieties about where you're at, I don't feel like they're reading into what's going on for you in a way that says that they can actually make logical sense of that from a physiological point of view. I do feel here that that they are saying that there's nothing more to do here. They're not listening to the concerns or the underlying anxieties that you have here in a way that kind of validates or bolsters or gives you further support from a healthcare point of view. I feel in many ways they're relinquishing their responsibility. They're signing off from what's going on. I do feel there's a strong sense that they're saying that things are all good. There's a feeling. I also feel here that you're not comfortable with what's going on here. I feel like you're looking beyond this institutional care. You're looking beyond whoever it is that you've been seeing, and thinking maybe it's time to move on and find some other support. I kind of feel like you're also looking elsewhere for answers, maybe for some kind of commitment. I just don't, and maybe even if you do, maybe for some of you, even if you are in this situation where you have still got that support, I don't feel like you're getting a high level of care or a high level of responsibility that's been sort of focused on you. Maybe that means, the clinician or the department has kind of diminished their responsibility of care or demoted you to sort of like being an outpatient at sort of arm's length. I don't feel like you're in the center of where things were before, or maybe where you think they need to be to really give you a stronger sense of confidence that, everything is okay. So there's just a feeling here with what I'm seeing so far that everything is still hanging in the balance in a way where things have moved forward greatly in terms of recovery. Physiologically, things have really firmed up in terms of feeling stronger. But there is just something here that's saying, I don't feel like things are fully back where they need to be. If I come over here to the Hermit and the Knight of Wands, I do feel over here that this situation is one where over time I do feel like things will begin to lift back up in terms of your confidence with health. I feel like that will rise up again. But I do feel like it's going to take time. Here with the Hermit, it just feels to me that this is an experience that is quite a long recovery process. I feel like this is a long path in terms of getting back on top of things. I think at times it's going to feel very difficult and maybe even very confronting in terms of what it is that happened. I feel that that will come up time and time again for you in a way where you rehash it. I feel like the reality is that this has actually been a really life-changing and very confronting situation back over here with the Ace of Swords and the Wheel of Fortune. I feel like this has gone so deep into your experience in a way where the reality is that this is life-changing, and that it's going to take time for things to sift down in a way where they make sense. I do feel that you shouldn't be rushing yourself through this process to find all of the answers, or to feel like you're actually back to where you were before all of this started. I mean, this is isolated in one way. This is isolated because it's about your health, but on another level, more holistically speaking, from a mind, body, soul relationship, there are a lot of lessons here with the Hermit that actually are about teaching you something more than just recovering. I feel that it's very important not to rush yourself or to force this process in a way that draws conclusions or just smooths over the situation. I feel like here with the Hermit, this is about patience and allowing yourself time to figure out what's happened in a way that makes total sense for you. And in many ways, it's okay to be vulnerable. Being vulnerable and learning about vulnerability and learning about your mortality and understanding your place in your own world, but also within the physical world, has arisen through this situation, which is why I kind of feel here with the Moon and the Four of Pentacles that things are so unsettled at the moment, because this has been such a big experience that it's not really going to make sense overnight. It needs time, it needs patience, it needs considered answers. And we come down here with the Temperance and Two of Pentacles. I feel like these two cards are really very supportive in terms of advice, and I do feel that they're suggesting the idea of assistance to find balance and restoration. Maybe that means for some of you to find a second opinion about what it is that's going on, so that you actually have a different perspective on where things are at with your health. But it's also about seeing new perspectives. That could be very self-considered in terms of giving yourself the time that you need to be able to understand the flip side of the coin. It also could mean the idea of seeing somebody at a much more personal level in terms of therapies. That could be about seeing a counselor or a psychotherapist, or somebody who can just give you a more personalized perspective as to what's going on. I do feel here that there is, over the next 2 years, like a full rebalancing that gives you total recovery. I do feel that you're actually going to regain a sense of yourself. I feel like this is a second phase in terms of your world, based on your health and your recovery. I feel over this period of time, over the next 2 years, that perspectives on health and finding rebalance within yourself, without rushing it, is an enormous part of what's going on for you. I do feel within this period of time, over the next 2 years, there's a definite phase that integrates into a deeper sense of your being, or a deeper sense of your personal health experience, where you find health harmony. I feel like everything is moving very much towards a dynamic recovery for you. And I've got to say here with these two cards, I feel the key to your recovery is about being gentle and kind to yourself. If I come back over here to the Ace of Swords and the Wheel of Fortune, I get a sense that you're a very hard-hitting, very ruthless-minded person who can be very hard on themselves. I think you'd like things to be factually in place in a way where you understand how everything is set, and I feel that this experience has thrown you greatly in a way where it's really knocked you off your feet. And I sense here that being gentle and giving yourself time to understand things from a different perspective is really fundamental. For my Patreon followers, if you'd like to hold for a moment, I'll be with you in a second. For everybody else, if you want to go down below and hit subscribe, tap on the bell icon. That'll give you notifications for any future readings that I post. Please like and share this video where you can. And if you're interested in the services that I offer as a psychic tarot reader, you can go to www.tonyfoxtarot.com. There's plenty of information about who it is that I am, what it is I do, and how you can access my service as a psychic tarot reader. Thanks very much and take care. Hi everyone, welcome to card number 3. This is your reading. We're looking at your health today. So let's jump in, have a look and see what's going on. I'm going to start up here with the Devil and the 3 of Wands. Good place to start in the past. I feel that your health situation has been one where there's been symptoms that things are not okay, and these have been underlying in a way where you haven't wanted to face them. I feel that things have been bubbling away underneath the surface, and your body, your energy, and even your mind has been trying to get your attention to draw a focus on the fact that things aren't quite as they should be. Here with the Devil, I get a lot of burning ambition, a lot of energy to focus on other things here with the 3 of Wands. Definitely, I feel like you've turned your back on this situation that's sort of calling you quite loudly at times, in a way where you're focusing on other things in your life. I definitely feel a very ambitious energy here to achieve other things. I feel like you've had a different thing going on in your world, or many different things going on in your world in a way that have distracted you, left you to feel that perhaps addressing your health isn't a priority for now, that there are other things that you need to get on with, and which take precedent. And I think at times I feel like these symptoms have spoken quite loudly in terms of how you've felt physically, or within yourself, and I think you've been quite firm in maybe refusing to address that. I definitely sense here that you haven't wanted to deal with it. Maybe for many of you, there's even a degree of denial here, of just not wanting to go there. And I feel that the longer that you've done that over time, this thing has become a thing, right? I just feel like you have turned your back on it, maybe denied at times that it's happening, or ignored the symptoms in a way where the longer you leave it, the worse that it gets. And the bigger this becomes within yourself in a way that starts to create a sense of anxiety and fear here with the Devil. I also wondered here whether you've actually confided in somebody else, a relationship of some sort where perhaps they've said, don't worry, it's nothing to worry about. I kind of feel like there is some sort of reinforcement either by somebody else, or maybe you've heard something from somebody who's an authority, maybe on TV or online, or I feel like there is somebody or something affirming you to say that it's okay, you don't need to worry about this now. I definitely sense there's been a preoccupation with other things in your life. I feel like there are certain relationships here that have taken up a lot of time and space in your world. I feel like that relates to what's going on in some way, where perhaps this relationship not only is telling you not to worry about it, but I feel like you've had a lot to deal with here, in terms of maybe getting ahead in your life and fulfilling your ambitions, but there are certain relationships that have been incredibly demanding or taxing of you in a way that have left you feeling very preoccupied energetically, psychologically. I just don't feel like your health has been a priority. And I also feel here very strongly that there's a sense of burning the candle at both ends, like you've really been pushing yourself to do certain things Maybe for some of you, you've been going out and having a good time, or maybe for others, it's the startup of a relationship, or you've just been very focused on your work or other activities in a way that have really preoccupied you, and that these things have become first in terms of what you're actually looking at. But I do sense here that you've been overextending yourself and pushing really, really hard in a way where energetically, I kind of feel like you've just kind of, overextended yourself. And as this has happened, the symptoms have become louder and louder and louder. Down here with Justice and the Six of Pentacles, I definitely feel here as a foundation that you've finally bitten the bullet to go and see somebody about this. I feel here with Justice, you've assessed what's going on in a way where, the reality bites. It's like, I need to do something about this. Looking back historically at what's going on, I have to take into consideration that this is not in balance, that things are not flowing, they're not feeling healthy, and that I need to go and weigh up all of this. So from an evidence point of view, I think that you've finally come to grips with the reality of having to do something about this after sitting on the fence for a very long time. I feel like you've seen somebody here, but I don't feel in this situation that this has given you all of the answers in an immediate way. I feel this is very much a situation where everything is sitting on the fence. I feel whoever you've gone to see, they don't have all the answers. They don't have maybe all of the information or the ability to assess the situation in a way that gives you a conclusion. So I kind of feel this has left you hanging in the balance in a way where things could swing one way or the other. I feel like this is a very uncertain diagnosis or outcome where everything needs to be weighed up and considered in a very thorough way. I feel like there is evidence that needs to be collected. That could be about tests, or it could be about further assessment and further consultations. I feel like there is more for you to do in this situation in a way that gathers information to be able to evidence an outcome that is conclusive. And I don't feel that there's been a quick turnaround here in a way that gives you a conclusion to say that this is what's going on for you. So I feel like this is a very deliberated experience that really pores over and considers all aspects of what's going on in terms of your health. And I feel like you've been left hanging here in a way that doesn't give you a definitive answer. But at the same time, there is a sense that you are finally in the flow of things in terms of trying to rebalance your health. But it feels serious. I feel like you've engaged with somebody here in a way that is taking care of you, that you're in the system, or that you're under care, or that what's going on for you is now being considered in a way that evidences your situation after a really long period of time here where there has been absolutely no recognition of what's going on. So I kind of feel like, you've kind of made the move to get things rolling. If I come up here to the Emperor and the Eight of Wands, here in the here and now, at this time, I feel like you're waiting on something to happen here in a way that is to do with information, to be able to conclude and rebalance your understanding exactly with what's going on. I feel like you're waiting here with the Eight of Wands for something to land, for information to hit you in a way that gives you the ability to be able to plan forward. Here with the Emperor, there's definitely a sense of waiting in a very gripped way. To hear the outcome, I feel everything is up in the air at this point in time until you find out exactly what it is that's going on. And I feel that you're completely outside of your comfort zone here in a way where you have absolutely no control of what's going on. I think that's actually very hard for you. If I look back here to the past with the Devil and the Three of Wands, there's definitely a sense of really wanting to kind of maintain control and focus, according to what you see as a priority. So I feel like having to surrender over this aspect of yourself in a way that puts it into the hands of somebody else is something that takes you outside of your comfort zone, because you no longer have control here with the Emperor. So I feel that this is a very difficult waiting experience where there's a high degree of impatience. I feel like you're wanting things to happen a lot more quickly than they actually are, and there's a lot of emphasis on this outcome in terms of how it dictates your future and what it is that you actually want to fulfill here with the Emperor, which is also another incredibly ambitious card. So I feel like this information is incredibly definitive, not only of your health, but it's definitive of what's in the balance for you in terms of the direction that you're going and how you can ground what is it you're actually trying to fulfill in terms of your work focus, in terms of your personal life, and anything else that you actually see fit to take control of. So I feel like this information has a lot of emphasis in terms of the outcome, and that it dictates the future here in a way where it has a lot of persuasion over your future and what it is that you actually fulfill. I feel definitely a sense here that you're not wanting this to interfere with any plans that you actually have, that you're hoping that this will be a situation that doesn't make things overly complex for you in a way that distracts you from what you want to be doing. I get a sense here that you're really wanting to maintain control of the trajectory that you're actually flying out on here without any interference. So there's a definite sense here that there's a lot of resistance still that's pumping within you in terms of you want to know what's going on, but at the same time, I don't feel that you really want to know. It's sort of like, I kind of feel like you want to be in control of things on your own terms, on your own conditions. And the idea that something could happen to you in terms of your health and scupper your plans or your ability to control your situation is something that I think you find deeply unsettling. And I certainly feel here that you're not at all comfortable with other people having authority over you. I feel like you're a very strongly autonomous person who likes to actually hold the reins and be in control of what it is that you're doing. But over here to the Hierophant and the Ace of Wands, I feel like this is a really positive outcome for you that green lights your health. I do feel that there is something that needs to be addressed, though. There's definitely a sense here that there is further engagement from an institutional point of view here with the Hierophant. And although this is a new beginning with the Ace of Wands, I do feel that this is a moment of ignition that engages you with some kind of further treatment and consultation, but I don't feel that that's overly complex. I feel like that is something that is very effective and quick. I feel like your health and what it is that's actually going on for you here is something that, to me, feels that it's dealt with in a really efficient and very effortless way. I don't feel like there's any complications. I don't feel like there's any taxing scenarios. I feel like this is very in and out. I feel like this is a quick turnaround in terms of putting your health back on track. And I feel like your energy here with the Ace of Wands reignites very quickly in a way where you're firing on all pistons again, and you're kind of straight out of the door into your world and the opportunities that you want to engage with. But there is definitely a process here where I feel that there is diagnosis and treatment that facilitates further engagement, but the recovery is really quick. I don't feel like there's anything scary about what happens here in the future. I feel like this is a very easy to deal with situation that is kind of a best case scenario in terms of what it is that you're hoping. To me, this feels very one-stop shop. I feel like you're going back, you're getting treatment, you're engaging with further consultation, but it's kind of like that's it, or maybe just a little bit more just to kind of close it off. I don't feel this drags out or becomes something that is really laboured or extended in terms of having to deal with. So whatever this is, I don't feel, in many ways, I don't feel that it warrants the degree of denial that you've actually gone through to actually get to this point. I feel that you put things off for so long, and that you put yourself through a very deeply internalized, fear-based scenario here with the devil that caused you to kind of suppress these symptoms, to suppress this situation, deny what was going on, to turn your back on it. And then you finally deal with it, but it brings up so much intensity for you in terms of surrendering into this in a way that feels very disproportionate. Because for me, the outcome in terms of diagnosis and treatment, it's very light touch or lightweight in a way where this could have been dealt with a really long time ago, which brings me down here to Strength and the Knight of Swords. And I do feel that these cards are really supportive in terms of a direction that suggests that from an advice point of view, the suppressive behavior is the root cause of many of the issues that are going on for you in terms of your health here with Strength, which is a very strong card for health. The Knight of Swords, you definitely fight against this idea of being unwell, of not wanting to allow yourself to feel the bumps in the road. I feel like you're choosing to push a lot of your thoughts and your feelings down in relation to health, but also in relation to other things that upset you. I feel like you push those down in a way where it creates an enormous amount of tension, and it becomes something that lays beneath the surface, and maybe which at some point you're aware of, but over time it becomes very deep-seated in terms of denial. And I feel that this is something that is really bearing its head and asking you or beckoning you to look at it in a way that says this is no longer sustainable. I think that there are times where you can be your own worst enemy. I think you fight with yourself, you fight with the things that you think that are stopping you from doing what it is that you want to do. I think you can be very active and very passionate and very ambitious. Your energy gears you to want to do big things, to excel in a way that exploits certain opportunities and unfolds a very quick-minded, a very driven point of view and need to fulfill a certain experience that actually puts your mark on the world. I feel that this creates an enormous amount of internal tension, but I do feel that the answer here is about finding a more sustainable creative outlet or dialogue that externalizes how you think and how you feel. I feel like this is actually really important because there is a tendency to flip into suppression and to push things down. And over time, the energy builds into a very frustrated tension that can become very toxic in terms of having to deal with. And I feel like this can actually do a lot of harm to you. And I feel like when that actually does burst out, finally, that can come through in terms of an experience that is related to your physical health, but also it can be very much about your psychological health. And I feel that the healing for you starts by addressing this internalized suppression. So for my Patreon followers, if you would like to hold for a moment, I'll be with you in a second. For everybody else, if you'd like to go down below and hit subscribe, tap on the bell icon. That'll give you notifications for any future readings that I post. Please like and share this video where you can. And if you're interested in the services that I offer as a psychic tarot reader, you can go to www.tonyfoxtarot.com. There's plenty of information about who it is that I am, what it is that I do, and how you can access my service as a psychic tarot reader. Thanks very much and take care.